Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, fear-mongering in Albertville. Also, a controversial voter purge. And the conventions are over. Are you ready to rumble?
Give him your famous headlock, Pop.
I gotcha. I'll tear your head off. I'll tear your...
Round one. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
This past week, the Democrats had their national convention, and I must say, Susan, I have watched a lot of conventions, but I have never seen a convention be more about family, freedom, and football than this Democratic convention. I mean, can you believe it?
I know. It's very exciting. I mean, just watching it, you get all jazzed up with all of the, the excitement of the crowd, the excitement of the speakers. It's just been pretty amazing. And speaking of speakers, three of the most influential women in the country have actually spoken. That's Hillary, Michelle Obama, and Oprah. Have all spoken at the convention. So that was pretty impressive in itself.
And one of the most influential or admired women in America did not speak at the Republican National Convention, but did show up. Josh, this, and I want to talk about this convention because we talked about how fired up they were at the Republican convention. And I can tell you, since 2008, we have not seen a Democratic Party this fired up. And I don't think we've ever seen this particular iteration of the Democratic Party, because you saw more signs and more chanting of USA. You heard more hymns. You heard more prayer. You heard more pledges of allegiance than I remember being at the Democratic Party. And also, you had Stevie Wonder. So, I mean, that kind of sets it right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, listen, you had a lot of people. It was a really good production, honestly. I mean, it was well put together. It was well thought out, and it was a lot of fun for everybody there and everybody watching. And you could kind of, it came through to people that this was a fun celebration of the country. Yeah. Okay. And that's, I think, what the Democrats wanted to put forward is this is look, I think sometime back, Democrats kind of ceded this this idea of patriotism a little bit to the right.
Yeah, I think that's
over
true.
The course of the last several years, I think some people have started to say, and myself included, wait a damn minute. I'm as American as they are. I live in this place. I love freedom. And what you're talking about isn't freedom. You're not talking about freedom. You're talking about basically oppression in a lot of sense of the word, And so Democrats have finally realized, I think, that the freedom that they represent sells very well to the American people. And I think that's the reason why you saw what you saw at that convention.
Well, and as I was, Susan, I think when we watched Tim Walz, who I've talked to several Republicans who served with him in Congress, who said he was just a genuine good guy who wanted to do the best for his people. Now, he's been criticized for being a moderate in Congress, but more of a liberal in Minnesota. And I would say he came from a red district, he had to be a moderate. But he runs a liberal state. I mean, he has to be liberal to please the people. They're from Scandinavia, the most of them. They're liberals. That'd be just like Governor Ivey all of a sudden trying to run this state like Tim Walz does. people would go, what's wrong with her? Then she would get elected. But I thought his speech, except for some of the policy positions, would have sounded just right in the old Republican Party. Not this new one, but in the old one.
And what's wrong with being a moderate? I mean, seriously, you got two extremes. What's wrong with being a moderate anyway? Why is there criticism in that? But, you know, I love to hear him speak because he's just so down to earth and just so principled and just loves life.
Yeah. And Josh, another thing I think, and how this is different, then I want to move on to the horse race, but how I think this is different is this is a little bit different than, say, the Bill Clinton coalition, and to a degree, the Obama coalition, especially, and the Joe Biden coalition. Obama was more of a movement. That was a movement, so that's something different. Because once you start a movement, you don't have to worry about policy anymore, you know. And that's like Trump. He has a movement. He doesn't worry about policy. We were thinking last night, trying to write down Trump's policies and their tariffs and their
You got to think about it a minute, don't you?
yeah. And so it's hard to, you know, because if you're a movement, you don't have to have policies. That's why 2025, somebody did that for them. So Josh, one of the things I've been thinking about is this is very different than the Bill Clinton coalition. It's somewhat different than the Obama coalition, which was really a movement. And then it's definitely different than the Biden coalition. This is more center-left than center-right or center. And I think people are kind of ready for that.
Oh, yeah, I do too. And well, first of all, I think people are ready for just policies in general. You know, I think people like to hear, hey, here are the problems we've identified, and here are policies to address those problems. And that is what you see from the Kamala Harris campaign right now is we have, things are going along pretty well compared to where the Biden administration took things from Trump. And COVID, the end of COVID, and where things were, and the way the economy was nosediving at the time, and the unemployment rate had spiked, and so I think it's gone very well compared to other countries that went through the same pandemic and the same issues. It's gone very, very well. But at the same time, there are some issues that we need to work on. And I'll tell you, the thing I think that is killing the Trump administration, the Trump campaign right now, is the killing of the bipartisan border deal.
Yeah.
You know, you can't say that this is the greatest failing of everybody, and you're going to hang this on Kamala Harris, and then everybody reminds them that, oh yeah, well, we had a deal that was written by one of the most conservative members of the Senate, and you killed it.
Well,
Right.
and I have to say, I think this is like the Obama in like 2008. This is a movement. This is women standing up and saying, we've had enough.
Yeah.
And they're coming in the millions.
Yeah, it's been the gender gap has grown exponentially in these races. And I wanted to get into the horse race into this. It's going to be close. It's going to be within the margins. Anybody that tells you right now they know what's happened has been back from the future. We don't know. But it's fun. Both parties seem to be having a good time.
Yeah, they
and
are.
that's what we like. We like fierce competition and have a good time. All right, we're going to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. One of the bigger issues at the Democratic National Convention has been abortion, the right for a woman to choose whether she wants to have children or not. And another issue that has loomed very large is fertility treatments, specifically IVF. And that all started here in Alabama with our Supreme Court determined that frozen embryos were human beings. Now, this is because of our 2018 constitutional amendment that enshrined that very notion in our Constitution. And whether you like it or not, I think they decided correctly. Now, everybody up and down the line in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party has scrambled to fix this. Now, they say, well, nobody in the Republican Party wants IVF to be outlawed. That is a lie. That is an absolute lie, because Tony Perkins and that type of group that supports the family focus and family first and all those folks, they want to do away with IVF because they see it as murder. But this is so unpopular that our Republican friends are running away from it and saying, well, no. And I don't disbelieve them when they say that, but you can't say all Republicans don't believe that, because they do.
They do. And it's tragic, because these are people that are not able to naturally conceive, but still want a family.
Yeah.
So it makes it very difficult. Am I to say, you're for these are human lives, but yet on the other hand, you're trying to restrict it so that people don't have access to it by making these ridiculous laws.
Josh, I don't think you can be more pro-life than wanting people to have children. I think that's the very definition of being pro-life, right?
Yeah, no, it is. And, there's this old, this comparison, I think that people toss out a lot of times. Let's say you're in a clinic and it catches on fire.
Yeah.
And in one room is a 2-year-old girl, and in the other room is 20,000 of these IVF embryos. Which one are you going to go in and save if you can only save one?
Right.
And I think that kind of leads us to where I think people, at least in my opinion, should think of these things. And, what's happened on the right is they've backed themselves into this corner on this life begins at conception thing without ever thinking of the science. And it kind of goes back to this whole idiotic black and white viewpoint of so many issues that we have, including this one, where we ignore science and what science could tell us about when life might actually begin in this process. And instead we focus on this, at conception. It begins at conception, and now you've backed yourself into this corner, and there's I don't see a way out.
And unfortunately, it's a religious belief.
It is.
Now, and scientists.
But why is it a religious belief? Why? Where in the religion does any of this come to play?
Well, apparently these people skipped sex education class, where the embryo is not viable until it implants in the uterus. This happens in the fallopian tube. This is where conception begins at this level, is in the fallopian tube, and unless it embeds itself in the uterus, it has no chance of life.
I'm just saying that's where it comes.
This is the most sex ed that a kid in Alabama has received in years.
And the wheels on the bus go round and round, right? Hey, one of the things that really just is driving me just nuts is this fear-mongering over migrants, Haitian migrants in Albertville, Alabama. Now, I happen to live about 25 miles from Albertville, Alabama, 90% of the time. And when I go to my dentist, there's a Hispanic woman that cleans my teeth. When I go to my eye doctor, there is a Hispanic woman that fits my eyeglasses. Now, you know what? They got Southern accents. But they are second or third generation Hispanics who have been on that mountain for decades, Susan.
Yeah. In fact, we were up there just this week to take our dog to the vet, and I was telling you, might not watch out for cannibals. We looked real hard to see if we could
That's
find
what
one.
it is. Okay, so there were pictures on Facebook of people being bused to the Pilgrim Pride plant, the chicken plant up there, to go to work. They're going to work, people. And so somebody said, oh, they're busting them in from Haiti. And then Brock Calvin, who is a newly minted senator, he was a House of Representatives guy, he came out and insinuated that these possibly were Haitian cannibal gangs. And Josh, I think you can Google Haitian cannibal gangs and find out they don't exist, right?
Well, I mean, you could, unless you're Brock, and I don't know that he can spell Haitian cannibal gang. But it's honestly, and the reason I say that, I don't know the man at all, but for anybody to say something that ignorant, I really do question, what his ability, his intelligence is. So, you're right. These folks have come in here to work. They're on legal visas. That I live in Madison. And right next door to Athens, and we've had the same sort of situation in Athens where they've vilified these Haitian folks that have come into work at different plants around here, and it's what it does. It exposes the hypocrisy that has always been there against immigrants, and because you hear all the time, well, if they just come here legally, we wouldn't have any problem with them. Well, guess what? They're here legally, and some reason or another, you have a problem with them.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes back to the other things that y'all say about, well, we just wish they'd come in and assimilate and love America. Well, how much would you love someplace where the people continue to crap on you all the time?
Yeah. Well, sometimes America is hard to love, but these people are working, Susan. They're not taking black jobs.
No.
They're not taking white jobs.
No, they're taking jobs that nobody else wants to do. I know enough about the chicken industry to know that Calvin would never do that job. I wouldn't do that job. I'm also not going to go pick tomatoes up on Straight Mountain at 120-degree weather either.
Well, the thing is, my mother used to drive me crazy with some song she used to love from the 70s or something. Walk a mile in my shoes. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes from a Native American thing about, don't condemn me until you walk the mile in my moccasin. So I would invite Mr. Calvin to come to Albertville. And look, if you want to work a day in the chicken plant, I'll try to set you up.
I'll be there to take pictures.
Pilgrim's Pride, they need the help. All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
125.
As a paramedic, you wouldn't believe the things that we've seen.
I've seen all types of horrible things.
I mean, we're there basically picking up the pieces from your worst day.
Everyone is just driving and not paying attention.
We all have the same goal. All of us want to go home alive and safe and harm nobody else in the process.
Slow down. Be careful. Care about the other people on the road. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. This past week, Secretary of State Wes Allen announced that he would be purging some 3,000 individuals from Alabama's voter rolls. And this has caused quite a firestorm. And he says these are non-citizens. These are people that do not have a right to vote. And there's some question about that. And it's one of those things that we're seeing nationally, where Republican secretaries of state are purging voters from the rolls. Is it legitimate or is it not? The lawsuit is going to be filed against Secretary of State Wes Allen over this issue. But it always comes back to, we want more people to vote, not fewer people. And yes, we want people that are that's a legal right to vote. But there seems to be some question about these folks.
Well, one of the problems here and what the lawsuit is about is he's violating the National Voter Registration Act.
That's their claim.
That's their claim because it's supposed to be a 90-day quiet period before any federal election. And we're 80-something days away from election. Yeah. So, that's a big problem. And that's what this lawsuit's about.
Josh, but this does seem, and I'm not criticizing Wes Allen, I don't know enough about it. I just know that there is a trend of purging rolls in Republican states that seems to be troubling.
Well, I'm going to criticize Wes Allen, and because what I know from this is what he's told people. Okay, and what he's told people is patently illegal to do. All right, that number one, well, like Susan said, he's violated the 90-day quiet period under the National Voter Registration Act. But people know it by the motor voter or whatever, with a little moniker that's there. But in addition to that, here's what he said, is that these people had non-citizen IDs at one point in time. Okay, at one point in time, they had non-citizen IDs. And that's the reason he went and removed them from the rolls. And he also said, according to the folks at the Southern Poverty Law Center and the release and everything that he sent out, that he did not bother to go and check to see whether these people have since acquired naturalized citizenship in this country. Now, you're going to take away somebody's right to vote and make them jump through hoops, possibly that they don't even know they're going to have to jump through until it'll be too late.
Right.
Because of you're too lazy to go and check out what happened, or whether or not they've got this ID, or whether or not they've become naturalized citizens.
Well,
how does that work in your mind?
It just concerns me anytime we are subtracting voters, because I just feel like there's something weird about that. There's just something unusual.
Now, John Merrill did that at one point, but he brought Josh and I in and showed us exactly what he was doing, exactly how it worked. And this was purging people that had living out of state. This was purging people that were dead, and those sorts of things, but not this racially based stuff here.
Can I say look, if you know immigrants, especially Hispanic immigrants and people that have come into this country and have acquired non-citizen IDs like that, they're not going and registering to vote illegally. They're trying everything in the world they can to avoid any kind of contact with government agencies.
Yeah, that's true.
This is not a thing that happens on certainly not on a 3,200 person scale.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And so I almost guarantee you that almost every person on this list has become a naturalized citizen, and that's why they're on.
Well, and I think that's what we need to know. But again, we do know, at least from what y'all are telling me, is that there's no right to do this close, some 70 days, actually about 71 days to an election. I want to move on to the next one, because this is kind of, it's positive, and then it's kind of, can we get this done? And Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth, for well over a year, has been talking about the goal of widening I-65 from the Tennessee line to the Mobile, right? He wants to do that. Now, the group has come together called Go Wide I-65, and it is run by none other than George Clark, who's been famous for running Manufacture Alabama, a very successful group. And they raised about $200,000. And Josh, all of us that drive up and down 65 would like for it to be expanded, but it seems like it's awfully ambitious. And is this Lieutenant Governor's backers going, hey, we've got an issue here?
Yeah, listen, I think nobody has, first of all, nobody who has ever been on I-65 is against widening I-65.
No,
okay,
no.
I'd like to widen it out to 37 lanes. Okay, if possible. But at the same time, I think where they ran into some pushback was on how to best utilize the money that we had where they were doing the West Corridor over there that Governor Ivey and ALDOT wanted to do. And listen, that Western Corridor has been so neglected for so long that they don't have the infrastructure necessary to do things.
Right.
And so that I think that's where that pushback came from. As far as widening I-65, listen, I've been on it. There have been many times I would have donated $1,000 to the Ainsworth plan to widen it. Okay. And so I am firmly behind my fellow bald-headed man.
Well, the question I have here is 277 miles worth of, how are we going to pay for this?
Well, that's the question. I mean, if you can get the federal money behind it, it's usually an 80-20 match. So it
still,
will
where
be,
are we going to get the 20?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's my ultimate question is, how are we going to get the money to do this?
You need to call.
I got an idea. Find all of the traffic jams on I-65 and put those guys out there with buckets.
There's a plan.
There's been
There's
a few times on. I've been up. Susan and I've been on I-65, and somebody decided to tear their vehicle up for unknown reasons. I'd have paid them a lot of money just to get me out of the dang traffic, man.
As long as we can pay for it, I'm fine with it.
One summer of folks coming from the north down to the beach will get that thing paid for. I guarantee you.
And that's the big thing, I think, is that it's going to encourage. It will help.
Yeah, it will.
It will help. Anytime you expand infrastructure, it's good for business. It's good for travel. It's good for tourism. It's just good. That's the reason we have all these interstates that are so well. Other than that, Eisenhower was afraid that we might get attacked and we need a whole bunch of tanks to move around. But I'm with this plan. I'd like to hear more about it, but I'm sure we will. They got money to put out the story. So
yeah, they got the billboards going up and down 65 now.
All right. Well, I can't drive 55, but I can drive 65. Listen, you've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.